Hey everyone, what's happening? Welcome to Maych TV, and for completeness, there we go. Doesn't work when it's live. It's a sync clap. You don't need to do that. It's fine. People like it. It's done. Right, hi. It is Wednesday. We are live. I don't know why I said it like that. I want to talk about Harvey Elliott and the fact that he's really, really, really good at football. And more importantly, he's really, really, really good at football. And he plays for Liverpool, and that's wonderful. So yeah, obviously, he's 18 years old, starts against Burnley in the midfield, which is not what most people thought would happen with his career. But yeah, he's been starting in the midfield, did it in pre-season. And I think, look, there is a real danger. First of all, let's clear this up. Let's caveat all this. There's a real danger with overhyping young footballers. We all do it. We're all drawn towards it. That being said, let's make this also perfectly clear that he might be the best footballer since Lionel Messi. I think we can all agree with that. I don't think there's any doubt in that. In any way, shape or form. Tremendous talent. And I want to talk about that. And I want to talk around a few other things. And look, we could sit here and we could talk about transfers and all that kind of stuff. Plenty of time and place for that. There's a show I've just recorded today on the redmentv.com. Which is the Reds transfer roundup, and in that show I went through all the latest news. So we talked about Mo Salah not having to go away with Egypt. We talked about the Brazilians not being released to go with Brazil, so they won't have to isolate when they get back. We talked about Kylian Mbappe. We did. We talked about Kylian Mbappe and the fact that the rumours and the interview on Sky Sports News that said that Liverpool were the club that's been trying to sign him, and there's a variety of other little sources that have said Liverpool have had a word about him, but that his heart seems to be set on Real Madrid. We also went through all of Liverpool's business so far this window, and by business I mean the players they've let go, the player that they've brought in, the wages that they've released from the books, and what's been happening in terms of contract renewals and what that means very loosely for Liverpool's financial position, and then revisited all the transfer rumours both in and out that might happen between now and deadline day next Tuesday. If you want to watch that show, that is streaming exclusively on the redmentv.com, which is basically like Netflix for Liverpool fans. It's a little streaming service we set up dedicated solely to Liverpool fans through the Redmen TV. So if you want that, check that. But I'm here to talk about Harvey Elliott. And I'm here to talk about Liverpool's wonderkid situation because, look, let's wax lyrical about Harvey. He's 18 years old and he's just been dropped into Liverpool's midfield. And not only did he hold his own, I thought he was excellent. I thought he was absolutely excellent, and it bodes very well. And these kind of things, there were portents of this, from when we pretty much when we signed him from Fulham. He holds the record of being Fulham's youngest ever Premier League player, or certainly did at the time. Liverpool picked him up on the back of the Champions League winning season. For a nominal fee, and of course that was the summer where which is quite interesting, people complained about Liverpool's lack of transfer business. Now, obviously, what you've got at Liverpool with Mike Edwards is you've got a forward-thinking beyond reason. Like the guy we joke about the ability to play 4D chess. Harvey Elliott looks like he's another piece of that. Whereas a young kid picked up out of nowhere, relatively speaking, a couple of years ago, and people were upset, and now he might be good. He is undoubtedly good enough to start games of football for Liverpool, and this is a Liverpool side who are amongst the best club sides on earth right now. High praise in and of itself. But what I really enjoyed about him, and why I think what is really telling about the season, so we've seen lots and lots and lots of young players come through at Liverpool, and we hope that they're going to turn into wonder kids, and in their own little ways they sort of are. Like one of the ones I think of like Jordan Ibe as an example. So much promise, so much potential, but whatever it was that takes you from being a promising youth player to that next step, there's something that wasn't. He didn't. Well, he didn't have it because he's having a professional football career. But what I mean is being able to stay at Liverpool. What you want is, you look at them. There's not many of these, which is why the names stick out so much. But go back to in my time as a Liverpool fan, the first one that stands out is Robbie Fowler in the 90s. Comes up, scores goals galore, comes into the first team and just continues to score goals. Never looks out of place in the Liverpool first team. He's followed not long after and toward the late 90s by Michael Owen, who does exactly the same thing, takes the entire world by storm at the World Cup and kicks on. And obviously his injuries curtail the heights that he really could have scaled. And let's not get into the whole Real Madrid, Man United thing as well. But regardless, and then there's a bit of a gap really, and I know you've got Steven Gerrard, obviously Steven Gerrard, but when I talk about this, it's weird that I think of It's hard not to think of like forward players because you get excited about them in a different way. And I'm going to talk about, look, I am going to talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold, forewarned for you right now. Like it's a bad thing. Trent, unreal. We will talk about him. But, you know, I think in terms of those iconic, like, attacking players, the ones that get you really super excited in their own way, it's sort of, it's basically stale. And if I've missed them, well, let me know. But the way I think of it, you know, in terms of, like, lads who've gone on to be at the top of the game, who've come through. I know we brought Sterling in from QPR, but, you know, he's come through the academy and he's there. And we're all sort of sitting around and waiting. And I think we hoped Ryan Brewster would be it. And for whatever reason, that's not quite worked out for him so far. And now here comes Harvey Elliott, and I've seen again loads of these players come and they look good in pre-season. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they look great in under 18s matches and under 23s matches, and because you can see those games, you can't help but hype them. I mean, for God's sake, Raheem Stlin got a standing ovation when he came on for his debut off the bench. It was pathetic. It was genuinely pathetic. It showed how crap we were, that we were having to hype up this child to be this sort of saviour for us, and then he ends up being that because Brendan Rodgers has, you know, the rug pulled under him in the transfer market a bit, but ends up making Sterling the main man for Liverpool far too soon, far too early, and that contributes towards him moving on and going to Man City, where he's flourished as not the main man, and now he's at the point where he can be the main man, and we'll see what happens next in his career, of course. But to the point, we joke, Danny Pacheco looked a superstar. We've seen Suso look like an absolute superstar, and Suso in particular has gone on and had a pretty decent career, hasn't he? But he hasn't, you know, we thought we could have had one of the real, genuine top stars of the game when we saw him coming through at Liverpool. So to see Harvey Elliott, and yes, it is very early days, so let's not get too carried away, but also let's get carried away because it's fun. For him to come into the Liverpool side. Now, we had a conversation on Redmen this week about, we've seen 2 games of football, we've played the same formation in both games, and yes, the midfield in particular is different in terms of personnel. So Milner starts in the first game against Norwich, and he starts with Naby Keita, both start with Naby Keita in these games, but Oxlade-Chamberlain plays in the right-handed 8 position, which is the one that goes and supports the tackle, the one that's let loose a bit more of the midfielders. And Ox is fine. A few people said he wasn't. He was fine. It was a decent performance from him. Not one anyone would particularly remember, but it was fine. And maybe we give Harvey a bit more time because we're excited for him, whatever. But to me, if you had to pick one of those two to then start the next game, based on what they did on the pitch and how they played, Harvey Elliott's in one game of football's gone above Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Now, young players have more ups and downs and they need to be managed through the career. Ox is a senior footballer for Liverpool, and that experience and that cool head and the charisma and everything else he's got going for him Klopp might well pick him ahead of those things. But for me, we need to worry about with Elliott. He's so young. What you want is to know that he's capable. I'm seeing people in the comments now talking about Phil Foden. Absolutely. Like, I'm Phil Foden, look at him now, he's 21 years old, and he's just had his breakout season, his real breakout season, where he's been an established regular in the Manchester City side. So he wasn't that 3 years ago, and I wouldn't expect Harvey Elliott to be that this season. But what you're looking for is that when he gets dropped in, 2 things. First and foremost, you just want them to hold their own, and that's good. And there's a lot of footballers who come in and just hold their own, and sometimes you think, oh, they're not good. Nico Williams being a good example of this. I think he's a really good footballer. He's come in and he's held his own. And there's a couple of really bright moments, particularly in the League Cup games a couple of seasons ago. Great cross in against Arsenal, win the game that ends up in penalties, of course. Really late in the game, great run against the byline and cuts it back. Regardless, hold your own's fine. If you're getting in the Liverpool side and you're holding your own, then that shows that you are a very, very capable footballer. However, when you get past that phase, when you start to head in towards your 20s, that's when you need to start doing a little bit more. So that's why it's so encouraging with Harvey Elliott, because he's not just held his own, he's come in and shone. He's come in and shone in a team where he's got Mohamed Salah there, and he's got Diogo goal machine Jota in front of him. He's got Mane on the other side, and he's got Naby Keita, a £50 million footballer alongside him. That for me is very, very encouraging indeed. And like, let's talk about it, because we talk about wonderkids, and do Liverpool have a wonderkid in their squad? Absolutely do. His name's Trent AlexanderArnold. Now, he's 22 now, so you could argue he's borderline. He's still up for, he could still get in the Young Player of the Year awards. So for me, yeah, I think he's still borderline in terms of that. But I saw a really interesting article, and because we're going all high tech here, got it on my laptop. Matt Adson on Twitter put this out and wrote an article for Liverpool.com, and it's a really interesting one. The Trent Alexander-Arnold now has the same number of Premier League assists as Cristiano Ronaldo in 65 fewer games. Now, there's a couple of stats that float around from Liverpool comparing to Cristiano Ronaldo, and the main one is that Mo Salah's now got more goals than Cristiano Ronaldo had in fewer games in the Premier League. And that's cool, and that's boss, more than cool. But the obvious defence of that is that Salah's done that in the peak of his career, even if you add the Chelsea stuff in, which you do have to, because I think he scored a goal for Chelsea as well. But the point is, the Salah that's hit the ground running at Liverpool is doing it in the prime of his career, whereas Ronaldo came into the Premier League as a teenager and came up, so he had this big goal scoring glut at the end of his time in the Premier League, whereas Salah's came at the start and has continued since then. So I think it's kind of hard to make that comparison. But when you start to say Trent compared to Ronaldo, and I saw one defence of it saying, yeah, but you know, Trent is set up to create for that team. Ronaldo was like a forward and blah blah blah, and his job was to score the goals. Like, yeah, but he was also a right winger. He also played right mid for Manchester United. He didn't always lead the line, and he did have that goal scoring club. But his job in the front three is to create chances. It was, you know, wingers create chances. That's just the thing. Salah creates chances as well as scores lots of goals. It's scary that Trent is at that stage, and there's also a great point in the piece that, and they haven't done enough research on this, and someone could probably answer this specifically, but in terms of his goals and assist ratio, he's on track to be better than Dani Alves in terms of his output. And that's the thing about Trent, and to go about the keeping your head above water and exceeding the expectations. Look how we've managed Trent, and it's perfect. He comes in against Manchester United and he's fine. He's fine. It's a what? Because he's a young player, it's maybe a 7 out of 10 performance, but if you were rating him as a senior player, maybe it was a 6 to 7. It doesn't matter. The point is, he came in, he held his own at Old Trafford, and then he was built upon from there. And now, Liverpool have, at 22 years old, the best right back in world football, regardless of what Louis might say on Redmen TV videos. Louis, you do it to yourself, you idiot. But he is. There's no, because the idea that he can't defend is nonsense. By the way, complete and utter nonsense. He's a very good right back, but he's also an absolutely brilliant right midfielder. Look, he would be playing right mid 20 years ago when David Beckham was getting goals and assists and scoring from the halfway line for Man United. Trent wouldn't have been playing right back in that era. He'd have been playing right mid. He just would have done. But the fact that he can do that from right back, and he's a right back and he scores free kicks, the kid's a generational talent. He's beyond almost anything else out there at the moment, and he plays for Liverpool. Yeah, he's incredible. And this is that, and I've seen it mentioned in the comments, and I don't want to gloss over it, because the other wonder kid I think that Liverpool have got is Curtis Jones. What a talent he is. Like, he doesn't lose possession of the ball. He's 6'1", 6'2". He's a little bit, obviously with that, he's not got enough meat on his bones to be really physical yet, but he's got pace, he's got close control, he can dribble, he's got a fantastic shot on him. And I think, and again, sometimes, people get sweet on people, so they look at Harvey Elliott and everyone's getting dead excited about Harvey, and for some reason people aren't getting the same excited about Curtis Jones, and maybe it's because he played too much football too soon. There's no way he was meant to play that way, that many games last season, but he played because of the nature of how the season went. You know, people thought Liverpool's season would collapse when Virgil van Dijk got injured and Gomez got injured. When we carried on winning, the team that took us to top of the league prior to Christmas, it had Curtis Jones in that midfield, out of necessity, sure, but it never felt like he was out of place. I mean, the fact is, Taki Minamino's a Japanese international. We tried him in midfield, and they still let him go out on loan because Curtis Jones was a much more useful and more likely to have option. And I've seen someone say that he doesn't have pace. A lie, Curtis Jones does have pace. He doesn't have electric pace, but then neither does Harvey Elliott. I reckon probably in a sprint, Curtis Jones would do Harvey Elliott for pace, because I think he's fast, but he's not lightning. But yeah, the point is that what's Curtis Jones, 19 years or 20, I think he is now. He's ready, I think, this season to kick on a little bit more. But it's funny sometimes how, you know, you do get lost and you get to it on the new thing and forget sometimes that you've got an incredibly talented footballer. And I think there might be one or two people who, I've seen a lot of people just out of hand, right, in Curtis Jones, I'm like, oh, he's average. He's very much not, by the way. There are no average footballers at Liverpool Football Club. There aren't. They're not. Now, you might be able to caveat that with an average level inside the Liverpool squad, but on a global scale, if you're involved in that senior team for Liverpool, you are by and large better than the vast majority of people playing football across the globe. Out of the 7 billion people on the planet, you are probably in a fractional percentage of the top footballers amongst them on the entire globe. So yeah, so it's always worth considering about that. And I think Curtis Jones will surprise one or two. I really think he is, and that's what bodes very well for Liverpool, because yeah, there are some issues about, maybe you can talk about squad depth, and I think people have a bit of fear and anxiety. So there's fear and anxiety over, is Keita going to stay fit enough? Is Oxlade-Chamberlain going to be fit enough? But also there's an unproven quality to Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott, and for me, to be a teenager and being trusted with playing in midfield for Liverpool when, you know, it took half a season for Fabinho to be trusted. That's mad when you think about it. Harvey Elliott had a pre-season and he's playing games. He's had a pre-season, he's playing games. Curtis Jones has come through the academy and he's playing games. Both lads can play in the front three if need be. Yeah, I think the future is very, very bright for Liverpool indeed. Right, we've got some comments and super chats. Get your thoughts in on anything I've discussed there. But yeah, I think the beauty about the Harvey Elliott stuff is that we've got a great manager, we've got a great setup. We have got world-class talent around that squad. There's never been a better environment for Liverpool youngsters to succeed. Robbie Fowler ended up being the main man too much too soon in an environment where football transitioned from the 80s. You go out on the lash every other night, drinking culture, to Premier League, you eat pasta and you watch your carbs outside of things and protein, and you exercise really when you live a healthy lifestyle. Michael Owen came through, too much pressure too soon, too important to the Liverpool side, and got ruined physically because of the demands upon him. We did the same to Fernando Torres later on as well, albeit obviously he was a senior player by that point. And I think now, in the way we're at, maybe Javier's not going to go now and play 50 games for Liverpool back to back, and nor should we want him to. What we want to do, and it's very rare that you point to the Phil Foden example, very rare that Man City do this kind of thing in the modern game. But look at the way they've blooded Phil Foden in. Don't throw him in don't put too much pressure on him. Let him grow into his own skin, his own body, and his own role within the football club. But the fact that I find so much. Sorry, I'm trying to get the comments up here, and I'm doing a very bad job of it. The fact that that he's able to do this at that age and hold his own is a note for massive encouragement, because if we've got fears around the fitness of these footballers, and we've got fears around is there enough squad depth to get Liverpool through, then you know, we're going to need these lads to step up, and this is not like us throwing a random kid in there. Now, a good example, you've got Cade Gordon there, who looked really good in pre-season. He's 16. It's too soon for him, but you've potentially really got another one there who, in a year or so's time, could start to be getting drift-fed into the side, which I think, I think is very, very good indeed. Right, let's just fail summarily to get these fucking comments up. I'm so sorry, guys. Let me find them for you. Let me just scroll back and get them, because we had a couple of super chats and you guys are lovely, so I wouldn't want to disrespect you by not having them. Right, Samonuske with the $4.99. Thank you so much, mate. Glad to catch you on a live early morning here in Cali. You think Elliott will play different roles for us this season, or has his position been decided? I think he will. And there's an interesting article on The Athletic, actually, where he's interviewed by he has a chat with his old coach. And they never thought to use him in midfield, which is quite funny. But yeah, again, it's the Trent thing, it's the Gomez thing as well. When you're young, you're not ready for the responsibility of being a fully fledged, being there week in, week out. And it'd be a bit stupid, because you've got to finish growing and developing. You want to safeguard the player's future and the mentality and all that kind of stuff. So yes, I think, look, nominally, there's a chance that he was brought in because he's playing as a wide right. He plays in Mo Salah's position, and that's where he's been raised. That's largely where he played for Blackburn, right wing. Well, he's not going to play for Liverpool, because Mo Salah, if he's fit, and he stays fit quite a lot, he's going to play. And Mo Salah, 75%, 60% fit Mo Salah is going to play over anyone, because that's how good Mohamed Salah is. So he needs to be able to play in different positions. So yeah, I think the 8 thing is important. But you might get to a situation where a game's won and you've got 15 minutes and you've got a big game coming up. So you've got a dead rubber in the Champions League, and then you've got you made Man City afterwards or something. Then you take Salah off for 10 minutes and you put Harvey Elliott on the right wing. So I agree. Yeah, I think we will see him get his game time in a few different bits and pieces. But I can't stress enough like for him to even be in consideration to play in the midfield that is unreal. Like it's phenomenal, genuinely phenomenal. Kieran D with £4.49. Thank you, mate. That's incredible. I don't want to overreact, but is Harvey Elliott the best teenager of all time? I don't want to overact either, but yes, without a shadow of doubt. Yeah, he's great. He's so good. He's so good. I love the fact that I just love the way he conducts himself. And again, the Athletic article, he doesn't look humble and laid back because he has mad hairstyles and wears mad clothes and mad shoes and all that kind of stuff. He's, you know, I very much feel the generational gap when I see him on Instagram. And Kurt Jones has got this, by the way, and I've met Curtis a couple of times. I've interviewed him a couple of times. He's got something about him. He's just got a quality, an assuredness to himself that's borderline arrogance, but it's there in all of the best young footballers. Now, obviously, sometimes that doesn't, you know, your ability level hits a wall and you can't continue your rise. But I think if to get past this, you need that to be able to do it. I don't think it's possible to get past that level without that level of assuredness, because you're going to come up against problems and challenges in football. You literally come up against 11 other lads whose job it is to stop you doing that every single week. So yeah, I think Kurt Jones has got that. And it's interesting, I saw a comment there saying from AS saying Kurt will be more of a Hendo type player. It's interesting that he's being trained to do more of a Genie type thing, which I think is it's taken a little bit more time. But again, with Curtis Jones, he can play. I think he can play both eights for Liverpool. I think he can play both sides of the front three. And you know, if he matures and he fills out a bit more, he might be able to do a little bit more up top, because he has got that height. If he develops the power with it, yeah. But he's just, again, at this point, young lads with talent don't have positions. You just get them in the team. And that's how, I mean, let's see what Kenny Dalglish did with Jordan Henderson. Knew he had something about him. Get him in the side, get him playing games. Larea Franetzi with 15 SGDs. Thank you. Says, hello, first time trying out Super Chats. Cheers, Paul. Oh, thank you so much. That's absolutely lovely. Yeah, much appreciated for all of that. Yeah, it's one of those things, yeah. There's loads of stuff I definitely can't read out here in the comments, but thank you so much for playing the game. I will say, Stuart Lloyd here as well with the Super Chat saying, I'm getting young Joe Cole vibes with Elliott. I know what you mean. There's a lot of people who would like that notion because they remember old Joe Cole. Young Joe Cole was an absolute superstar at West Ham coming through. Yeah, just great touch. He was very un-English. Like Adam Lallana is a bit like that as well, actually, and again, which it's just funny now because you've now got an England side that's packed full of these really super technically gifted footballers. But like 5 or 6 years ago, Adam Lallana really stood out. 20 years ago, Joe Cole really, really stood out. And Harvey Elliott, even in a world now where, you know, the Premier League is chock full of these lads, stands out as well, as does Curtis Jones, and of course, as does Trent Alexander-Arnold. Lovely stuff indeed. That's a go. I put it this way, Elliott has the ability to be nominated for the Ballon d'Or. That's how good his God-given talent is. Yeah, and again, to the point about the Athletic article, what I like him is how he's conducting himself and how he talks. You know, when he was a kid, he was concerned that he wasn't fast enough. So his dad spoke to him and went and got him a sprint coach as a teenager, like a young teenager, to try and work on that. And he said he still works on his pace thing because he knows that he's not got electric pace, but he's desperately trying to find just that extra little bits and pieces. And, you know, again, what he's got is he's got the game intelligence. You know, Stuart Downing was talking about him after this time at Blackburn, saying he was there when Sterling was coming up at Liverpool, and he feels that Harvey Elliott has got a greater football brain, game intelligence, which is high praise. Think of what you want about Stuart Downing, but he's had a pretty good career as well. Brilliant. I'm happy. I'm buoyed. Obviously, there's lots of other things that can be discussed. And as mentioned, I've just done the Reds Transfer Roundup show on the redmentv.com, which is our Liverpool streaming service. So if you want more Liverpool in-depth content and chat, we've got loads of documentaries. I've been going on about the Jordan Henderson documentary, which is beyond levels, beyond anything any fan media's ever created. And I know I have to say that it's ours, but like, and the feedback on it has been genuinely tremendous. But that's streaming on there, loads of documentaries. So again, think of it as like Netflix for Liverpool fans. So if you want more bonus me, you want more bonus Redmen content, or if you just want more extra in-depth Liverpool content, features and interviews with legends, past and present, and all that kind of stuff, then I would highly encourage you to go and sign up for the redmentv.com. I used to have a Patreon on this channel. I didn't have the time to run it properly, but I'm going to start folding this channel onto that website, so I will be doing more extra content. So if you want to support the channel, know that if you support the Redmen TV, redmen.com, you support the whole enterprise. This is sort of, this channel's part of the Redmen network, as it were. But listen, guys, you're amazing. Thank you so much. There's loads of boss things. Thank you for all the questions. We'll do more. I'm going to be doing more of these and more regularly, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click like. The subscriber numbers have been going in the right direction. This channel's stagnated. I'm just keeping it ticking over. One vlog back. And the numbers have gone up so close to 120,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subbed, then do. Loads of questions about Maych and Pajak. Yeah, that will also be on. We'll also be doing stuff on the redmentv.com with MXP, hopefully in the next year. But we're currently in a really massive transitional phase for Redmen, which means there's some brilliant stuff coming. So it is the perfect time to sign up right now, right today. So do that. But yeah, it's good. I'm really like the happiest I've been as a Liverpool fan watching the footy on the pitch, but also in terms of what we're producing off it as well. You know, this is our 12th year on YouTube. 12 years. How old were you 12 years ago? Ask yourself that question. Let me know. Actually, I would find it interesting to know where people are watching from and what they're doing. So where you're watching from, and how old were you when we started on YouTube in 2010? Yeah, that made me feel old. Wonderful stuff. Oh, Sergey was 24. Good on you. Owen Samuel was 4. Wow, 15 from Daryl D, 8 from Ross, 6 from... Wow, Jeremiah was 10. Blimey. Yeah, you all make me feel very old indeed. But yeah, we've been doing this for quite a while. So yeah, if my opinion matters to you in any way, shape or form, and you're feeling a bit wound up about Liverpool, what I'll say is, it's not because, as some people randomly suggest every now and again, that I'm in the club's pockets, which just couldn't be further from the truth. Because, I'll be honest, I would be. If John Henry wanted to pay me millions and millions of pounds to say nothing but nice things about Liverpool, I'd fucking take it, and you would too. But they're very much not, which is why I don't always say nice things about Liverpool. But I say nice things when things are nice, because I see things positive, you know. That's how it is. Thank you guys. You're absolutely amazing. Have a wonderful afternoon. We are going to be doing a live stream as well for the Champions League draw tomorrow, live on the Redmen TV from 5 PM. So check it out. Have a wonderful night. You guys are the best. I love you so much.